has gone well. Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Committee. In the interest of safety, if the continuous fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room and the public gallery using the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts. Please assemble in front of the King Henry building at the end of King Henry I Street, which is down there. In order to comply with the Portsmouth Cultural Trust Fire Marshal's regulations, please remember to sign out when you leave the building after today's meeting. For those of you who have not attended this committee before, I will explain the running order. After committee members have declared their interests and agreed the minutes of the previous meeting, I will announce each item and ask those of you who are here to make a deputation to come and sit at the table. After the planning officer has made the presentation for the application, individual deputies will have 6 minutes to express their views, and joint deputies will have 12 minutes between them to make their views known. After which you will take no further part in the proceedings unless we need to ask a question to clarify a statement which has been made. Members will then ask questions, make comments, and the decision on the application will be made. Both members of the committee and members of the public are reminded of the need to consider material planning matters and not to refer to any personal information about other members of the public. I repeat, not refer to any personal information about other members of the public. May I draw everyone's attention to the fact that this meeting will be live streamed from a camera at a fixed location at the back of the meeting room, and the recording will be on the Council's website. The camera will mainly capture the backs of those making deputations, but there will be some footage of those making deputations as they approach and leave the table where the microphones are located, and of people entering or leaving the room while the meeting is in progress. Members of the press and public are also permitted to record the meeting on the understanding that it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Finally, may I ask everyone to use the microphones provided when they are speaking. For the members who are making deputations, you will see that there is a button on the right-hand side, a single button. Press that and a red light will come on, and then you are live. Please remember to switch it off afterwards. I have a couple of notices which are mainly for the committee, which I will do at the end of this meeting. First of all, do we have any apologies for absence?
Apologies from Councillor Pitt.
Apologies from Councillor Pitt. And Councillor Smith, you are standing as standing deputy.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Declaration of members' interest. Do we have any members' interest to declare on any of these items? No, thank you. You have before you the minutes of the Planning Committee held on Wednesday, 12th of December 2018 here. I intend to take them page by page for accuracy. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, and page 6. Since there are no objections, I shall sign them as a true record of that meeting. They can go down. Right. I intend to change the order somewhat from that which is on your agenda. After we have received any updates on previous planning applications from the Assistant Director, we will move to item number 6, 25 Portsdown Avenue, then 7, 163 Powers Court Road, number 8, Aerial Business Communications. There will then be a report on 137 Gladys Avenue, and we will add an item on supplementary planning document on HMOs and on enforcements. And I will put those at the end of the meeting. Is that acceptable to all members? Thank you. So we now move to item 4 on your agenda, which is updates on previous planning applications. Do we have any?
Chair, there are no updates this afternoon, but I would like to take the opportunity to introduce Sim Manley to you, who is the interim that's come in to cover the post of DM manager, the post Ruth O'Mella previously occupied, whilst the council seek to recruit a permanent person to that role. So Sim will be here for a minimum of 6 months.
All right, thank you very much, and you are very welcome to the meeting. We now move on then to planning applications. We will take first number 25 Portsdown Avenue. If I could have Mrs. Wise and Mr. Riggs at the table, please. Right. May we have the officer's report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. The application relates to number 25 Portsdown Avenue, which is located on the western side of Portsdown Avenue, south of its junction with Seaview Road. The site is occupied by a detached bungalow that has been previously redeveloped to insert rooms into its loft space. The proposal seeks to construct an additional storey to the existing property to include alterations to the roof, as well as additional windows to all elevations. The above slide highlights some images of the site. The dwelling is located close to the junction of Portsdown Avenue and Seaview Road, but is mainly its front elevation that is visible from the roadway. The above slides show the northern elevation of the property taken from Seaview Road on the left, and on the right is the rear of the existing property. After the completion of the work, the property will maintain its pitched roof with an increase in its maximum height to 8.3 metres and an increase in its eaves height to 5.5 metres. The proposed development would keep the existing style of the dwelling's front elevation, featuring square bay windows to the first floor with similar proportions to that of the ground floor windows. The submitted design includes the construction of a front porch that will be sited centrally and blend the additional storey with the existing ground floor, and the majority of the increase in mass would be towards the east front of the property. The first floor elevation would expand the existing Juliet balcony, so this is the rear, while maintaining its central position of the Juliet balcony. It would include 2 additional windows of the same size. Each of them will be size and design, and they'll be each evenly spaced either side of the balcony to give the rear of the property an increased sense of uniformity. The work would be completed in render to and cladding to match the existing property's style and appearance. And Portsdown Avenue is characterised by a variety of different styles of properties. A number of the other dwellings within the road have already carried out work to increase their first floor area. So the surrounding context. The neighbouring resident to the south, number 23 Portsdown Avenue, you can see to the left of it there, has already built additional built form to their property. Due to the scale, siting and the orientation of this property, the development would not represent any significant impact in terms of a loss of light or a sense of enclosure. The side elevation of the property facing the development site only features a few roof lights and some ground floor windows. It's considered that due to the size and placement of these windows, that the proposed development would not give rise to any significant increase in overlooking and a resulting loss of privacy. The property faces onto Portsdown Avenue and is separated from the properties to its frontage by approximately 31 metres. This distance would mitigate any significant impact caused by the development through overlooking or resulting loss of privacy. This is the resident to the north, number 27 Portsdown Avenue. It has 3 south-facing windows that would face onto the property. There is an existing garage owned by number 27 that would obscure the development from the view of these two windows, of two of these windows. The third of these windows is a secondary window, which is also served by a large front square bay window. So any impact for a loss of light, sense of enclosure, or an overbearing impact would not be significant enough to warrant refusal on this matter. And the property, the neighbouring occupier to the west, number 2A Seaview Road, is separated from the rear of the property by 14 metres. This distance, along with the gradient of the ground level, which slopes down southwards, would mitigate any significant impact caused to this resident through a loss of light or a sense of enclosure. The rear elevation does face onto this resident, and there would be an increase in the number of windows on its rear elevation, but due to the existing Juliet balcony on this elevation, there would be no significant increase in terms of overlooking or a loss of privacy onto this residence. So taking into consideration the design and appearance of the proposed development and its acceptable impacts upon the neighbouring residents, it is considered that on balance the proposal is considered to be acceptable in design and amenity terms and would be in accordance with policy PCS3 of the Portsmouth Plan. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Our first deputy is Mrs. Wise. You have 6 minutes, Mrs. Wise. Please remember to press the button, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. The loss of light. My property lies directly to the north of the application with a distance, I was told, of 5.8 metres between us. The proposed increased height of the application's property of 4.5 metres will create loss of light into the daytime living area of my property, particularly towards the west end of the living room, kitchen and conservatory, especially during the autumn, winter and spring months when the sun lies lower in the sky. And at this time of the year, I've been looking out the window and I can see the effect that the height will have to the sun. This decrease of sunlight will be most noticeable in my conservatory, particularly during the winter months. The proposed increase in height to 25 Portsdown Avenue will have an overpowering and repressive presence, particularly to the rear of my property. The direct sunlight reaching my back garden will be severely compromised, resulting in the use of outside drying facilities, from the summer months ineffective, with the consequence of having to use additional man-made energy for drying of laundry. In my opinion, the proposal will affect the value and sellability of my property due to the overbearing presence of 25 Portsdown Avenue from my south-facing boundary windows. This is the second time the bungalow at 27 Portsdown Avenue has been subjected to detrimental effects of building work at 25 Portsdown Avenue in recent years, due to the property having already been extended, including a roof extension to the rear. And these new proposals will leave my property completely overshadowed on the south side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wise. Mr. Riggs, you're the applicant. You now have 6 minutes to present your case to us. The floor is yours.
Hello everyone. Thank you. Currently our property is a bungalow with a loft that has been badly converted into a small sleeping area of 2 bedrooms and an ensuite bathroom. The footprint and usable floor space is considerably smaller than downstairs on the ground floor of the property. 3 sides of the loft, due to the northwest and south sloping roofs, internally 3 sides of the loft are sloping, which makes the converted loft area feel very small and claustrophobic, and this has been witnessed by the planning case officer, Mr. Garrard, during his site visits. In the summer, due to the insulation in the roof and being so close to the sloping roof upstairs in the loft, it's far too hot to sleep upstairs, so the whole family has to sleep downstairs, which is far from ideal. We considered options for making the converted loft space a more practical and usable space. We submitted a pre-planning application to seek guidance from Portsmouth Planning on what might be acceptable. This included proposals for dormers in the current roof or a first floor, turning the property into a traditional house layout. We were advised by planning that an additional floor space was the preferred option, as dormers would over-dominate the roof space, and that similar properties in the street had been converted to have an additional first floor, so this option would be in keeping with the street. We followed the guidance from the pre-planned application to produce the planning application we propose today. We chose our architect, Derek Tregus, because of his extensive knowledge and experience of the local area and experience of Portsmouth planning requirements. We spent 2 years creating these plans, liaising with our architect, who has worked closely with Portsmouth planning in the past and with this application, to produce the plans that are not only in keeping with what is in the street and the surrounding area, but will enhance the outlook of the street. We have not opted for any grand designs. We have kept to a simple traditional house layout, maintaining original features both internally and externally, and the plans are designed to match other properties in the street. For example, our exterior aspect is almost identical to number 32 Portsmouth Avenue, which is diagonally opposite our house. The impact on light to surrounding neighbours is minimal due to the large distance between the properties and the slope of the road. We have also included a reduced roof pitch of 30 degrees. The construction is to be of timber and prefab using environmentally friendly and high insulation materials and reusing existing materials such as roof tiles where possible. We have liaised with solar panel companies and we plan to install the maximum 12 of large black solar panels on the south-facing roof to increase naturally sourced energy. Both my father and mother-in-law have deteriorating health problems, and part of our future plans is for them to move into our house so we can look after them when their health reaches this stage. As such, we plan to have a bedroom each for them downstairs with a small separate living room at the front of the house to offer them a separate quiet space to relax. The plans include 2 bathrooms, one downstairs for the 2 parents as the stairs would become a problem, and one upstairs for the family. Additionally, looking further into the future, the average age of a person getting onto the housing market ladder is 30 due to the high costs involved, so we anticipate our children living at this property until they reach this age or longer, and we would like to be able to provide the option for them to live there as long as they want, together with any partners they may meet or children they may have. Most of the properties in the street are of a traditional house style, ground and first floor with a roof, and almost all of them are much bigger than our proposed planned house. We have no plans to move. We have joined the local social club, the Carlton Club on Portsmouth Avenue, and have enjoyed meeting and being part of the local community. We're not property developers. This is our forever home, and we would like to develop it into a working family home, converting a dysfunctional and claustrophobic roof space to create a usable first floor to encompass our current and future family needs and facilitate being able to care for our ageing parents when their deteriorating health reaches a stage that we need to look after them, which will probably be in the near future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Members, questions? Councillor Jones.
I've got 4 fairly straightforward ones. The first is that in the opening paragraph of the officer's report, it says that the application is here simply because of a request from 2 residents. Is that the only reason why it's at committee? Because normally, obviously, straightforward applications like this would be dealt with under delegated authority.
So, if I'd maybe take that a question. So, under the scheme of delegation, if a resident or another member of the public exercises the right to speak to the committee, and then under the scheme of delegation...
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, is that the only reason why it's here?
Sorry, apologies.
So normally this is a straightforward application.
Without those requests.
Next question. Can you confirm that loss of light and value of to a neighbouring property of a development are not material planning considerations?
we can confirm that that is the case.
And finally, I wonder if the case officer or through Claire, what your opinion is about the statement that's been made about sort of an overburdensome overshadowing at the garden at number 27.
Yeah, there would be some degree of overshadowing, but based on the current arrangement, you can see there on the left, because most of the mass of development will be towards the front of the property in terms of its increase in height, I would be able to view that it wouldn't be significant enough as to warrant refusal on this matter.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, in which case I'm pleased to propose the application. No grounds for refusal at all.
Councillor Jones, other members might wish to ask questions before we come to comments. Yes, okay. But do you? Okay. Questions from other members, please? No. We have a proposal that the officer's recommendation be accepted, proposed by Councillor Donna Jones. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Gemma New, thank you. Are there any comments which members would wish to make? Right, members. We therefore move to a vote on this matter. The application before you, accept the officer's recommendation. Those in favour, please show. That appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much. At the end of this, I would like to thank both deputies for making their deputation and express the hope that although, Mrs. Wise, your objections have not convinced the committee, this will in no way detract from your relations with your next door neighbour, Mr. Riggs. We trust that these will be amicable in the future. Thank you very much. Members, we now move on to 163 Powers Court Road. I would ask Mr. Malcolm Stevens, Ms. Judy Marchant and Mr. Dimitri Kukuruza.
Just the agent, or just the applicant that's here today.
Oh, right. Neither of the objectors have appeared. In which case, Mr. Kukuruza, would you please come to the table? Can we have the officer's report, please?
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for the change of use of a Class C3 dwelling house to remain either as a Class C dwelling house or to become a Class C4 small house in multiple occupation. So that would give the applicant the choice of either C3 or C4. There are essentially no changes to the property. These are the plans. Now, we've just in the last hour or so had updated plans confirming the sanitary ware in both the bathroom upstairs, the WC downstairs and the utility room, which should be in front of you on paper. So the paper copy of the plan you have is different to the one I'm showing on the screen. I'm sorry for not having time to update the screen version. But as you can see, the configuration of the property internally would not change with the application. There would be a bedroom downstairs at the front and 3 bedrooms remaining upstairs on the first floor. So it's an application to use it as a small HMO. It has attracted a number of objections. 6 are set out in the report in front of you, raising the sorts of issues one might expect on a small HMO, concerns about its occupation, standard of occupation and amenity for the neighbours in terms of noise, antisocial behaviour, parking and so on. Then in the SMAP report that's come to you, you should have in front, one of the objectors who's already written in has written in again because unfortunately she was unable to make it today. She did intend to come in and speak to you, but because of work and the short notice for the committee she hasn't been unable to do that, so she's written in again reiterating the points set out in the report already and some extra points which are set out in the SMAT report in terms of numbers of people in the property, the state of the property, antisocial behaviour and number of HMOs. Otherwise, the issues are fairly straightforward. Members will see on page 15 or page 3 of the report, we deal with the matter of principle first. Members are familiar with the 10% threshold policy we have. in Portsmouth. In this instance, within the 50-metre radius, there are no other HMOs showing on our data sets. The objector who's written in believes there may be another one in that 50-metre radius, but even with that and the proposal, it will still remain well below the 10% threshold. And so on that basis, officers have no objection in principle to a change of use, because it wouldn't be deemed to imbalance the local community with an over-concentration of HMOs. In terms of the standard accommodation, moving through the report, the bedroom sizes are all adequate. The one issue is a slightly a smaller bathroom, which members can see there upstairs at the front of the property. It's slightly undersized. The information that's come through today confirms that the works that the property has been currently subjected to are the refurbishment works, which include an entirely new bathroom and an entirely new WC downstairs. So the bathroom would have a bath, a hand basin and a toilet, and the WC downstairs would have a new toilet and a wash basin. So although the bathroom is slightly undersized, we didn't think that was a matter to withhold consent because of the WC and utility downstairs as well. So there are two toilets in the property, and this is the same as the property has been occupied for several decades by a family as well. Lastly, residents' concerns about amenity. As you're aware, the reason that the government allows interchangeability between C3 and C4 dwelling houses and small HMOs is, in its opinion, there is little material difference in the occupation of a property between a family and a small group of unrelated people living together. As a small HMO, that's up to 6 people. That's why, unless permitted development rights are removed, that ability exists to change between C3 and C4. Some local authorities, as Portsmouth does, have decided to remove that permitted development to enable the authority to make a decision, like this application, as to whether or not it would accept such a change. But in officers' opinion, the use of the property indeed, in principle, should be similar between a family and a small group of unrelated individuals living together. Lastly, in the report, the last main issue is parking. Our approach is that the parking demand for a small HMO may be similar to a family dwelling. That's certainly how the Transportation Department look at it, and so they are happy to accept that change of use as well.
Thank you. Mr. Kukuruza, you have 6 minutes to address the committee. If you'd use the microphone, please. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, I'm applicant for this property. So obviously going through the objections from the residents nearby. They mentioned that we had obviously up to 10 people living in the property, 10 people, which never was the case. Initially, we bought the property to accommodate our staff, which we obviously local company, and the condition mortgage was up to 4 people can live in property, which we did. So we reside our four members of our staff in the property at any time, and there were checks on 3 different occasions, and from Portsmouth City Council, and there was no more than 4 people living in the property. The other issue was antisocial behavior, which when was raised by neighbors, I did spoke to tenants, and I don't think any other occasions were happen again. So the property is at the moment going a total renovation, and we bring to standards with housing health and safety and building regulations. So this fireproof and bring to standards with conduct regulations. Obviously, we're improving the WC facilities. So there's more than 1 toilet for the whole property. And in general, we just want to say would love to have it approved as a HMO. Any other issues? with parking, there was no more than 2 vehicles that from our staff were parked at any time. With the back the property where there was a block-in as residents' garages, I don't believe it was any of our staff was parked there. So I think that's all.
Thank you. Members, questions? I have a question from the Chair on a matter of the revised plans which we have in front of us. The bathroom on the first floor is 2.6 metres squared, whereas our normal standards is 3.74 metres squared. In coming to a decision on this, should we take for the bathroom the combined size of the bathroom and the toilet?
In terms of your... sorry, Simon, do you want to answer this?
Okay, it depends, Chair, it depends on how many individuals occupy the premises. 1 to 4 persons, our guidance says at least 1 bathroom and 1 WC, which can be combined. In this instance, there's 1 bathroom with a toilet and 1 WC downstairs, so that would be fine. For 5 to 6 persons, it says 1 bathroom and a separate WC with wash-hand basin, which is what's being provided. So the answer to your question, Chair, does depend partly on whether it will be 4, 5 or 6 people occupying the premises, as to whether or not it fully meets the standard. I don't know if we want to ask the applicant if they can confirm whether it would be 4, 5 or 6 people, if he knows, or how you want to deal with that, Chairman.
Well, my question was mainly on the question of size, because the bathroom is below the standards which we would normally expect. Mrs. Upton-Brown, how do we deal with that?
Okay, in terms, it is below your standards, so I think in terms of you considering this in terms of its planning merits, you need to look at the property in its total context. So you've got a number of bedrooms that are significantly oversized compared to our standards, and you've got quite generous living accommodation. I think the opportunity, because it's a conversion of an existing building, if you look at the floor plate, they've clearly used the existing bathroom, which is a small bathroom, and would have been that size if a family of 7, 8, 9 people, however many people might form a family, would have to use as accommodation. So I think you need to balance out the fact that it is slightly below standard, but is it so harmful going forward to the living conditions and the quality of living for future occupants as to justify refusal, given that you've got generous space within other rooms? Or do you feel that small bathroom is not adequate to serve the needs of the future occupants? I think if we take that forward into an appeal situation, an inspector would compare how it could currently be occupied as a family, which could indeed be a large family and could indeed have adults living there, as we see throughout the city, and whether or not it's sufficiently harmful to actually say that this change of use can't happen.
Councillor Stagg.
Thank you, Chair. Theoretically, going by the recommended minimum sizes for rooms, there could be 7 people living in this property. Yes?
No, only 6, because it's up to 6 people. It's the C4's HMO rather assumed generous.
The fact that 3 of the bedrooms are very large and therefore could accommodate 2 people.
So in terms of the application before you, it's up to 6 people. Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, I mean, this is in very practical terms. I mean, this is an observation rather than a question. 6 people trying to get into that bathroom in the morning is going to be a nightmare. That's just an observation. But are those larger bedrooms not big enough to have an ensuite in?
So in terms of the actual physical layout, without wanting to give too much advice about how you could redesign the house, The rooms are of substantial size, so the applicant could have chosen to put en suites in any of those rooms because they have sufficient floor area. And similarly, if you look at the communal living accommodation, you've got sort of quite a generous kitchen, diner, and then a sort of back common area plus a WC and a utility room. So you could, in theory, have joined the WC and the utility room and made a sort of much larger downstairs facility if the applicant had chosen to do that.
Councillor Smythe?
This is just a comment based on, to build on this conversation. I mean, the WC at the back of the house is hardly one where you'd want to wander through the kitchen and the living room to go and use either in the middle of the night, but particularly in the morning when you're in a rush and other people are having their breakfast. I suppose this is really because I'm concerned about not particularly the size of the bathroom, in that in a HMO people don't usually pile in all together, but its need for another bathroom and whether or not the applicant had considered that, because it would certainly be easier to approve this if there were at least one other bathroom there.
Question to the applicant, and the applicant may.
Yes, we do consider recently to combine the downstairs to make another bathroom downstairs space. So combine some utility space with a toilet, existing toilet basin, and to create another bathroom.
I think it's upstairs it's needed, not downstairs.
So we'll have two bathrooms essentially,
Yes.
one downstairs and one upstairs, with both with WC facilities. Other option which architects offered or suggested to put one ensuite bathrooms in one of the bedrooms to make it easier for the residents. So yes, it is considered, yes.
That would be the better solution than more people don't like walking through kitchens and things in the morning to go and bath, do they really, want to go and shower?
It's just where we have a bathroom bedroom downstairs, so it'll be one residents can use it in the morning.
And you decided not to put additional bathrooms in?
Well, at the moment we consider it, so we renovated the whole property. So the upstairs we put an extra toilet, and downstairs. But it is a better option to put the whole bathroom or put it in one of the bedrooms. Something we haven't decided yet, but I think it's more likely to put an ensuite bathroom upstairs and leave just the toilet downstairs.
Other questions, members? Comments? Councillor Stubbs.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, it's another one of these applications that we've had quite a few in the northern quarter, maybe, of the city. And in common with all of the rest, the percentage of properties in this use is dramatically under 10%. In fact, I'm not at all convinced that there's any locality in the northern quarter of the city where there's any place at all where the 10% rule is exceeded. And it does make me wonder really what we gain by taking all of these applications to the planning committee, because it gives the impression that we can do something about it. It gives the impression that committee members are making a personal decision to allow a house in multiple occupation, where in actual fact I can't see any circumstances where we would have policy justification for refusing consent in these localities, and I would suggest this is something it might be worth looking at. In terms of this particular application, I mean, we've been all over it really, and particularly when you read it in conjunction with the appeal decision referred to in the report, which more or less says that you can't treat an HMO any differently than a house. Now, because you could have a massive family in a house, that's pretty unlikely. You could have, there's nothing to stop you having 20 people living in one house, but it never actually works out that way. But nonetheless, from a planning perspective, we are more or less required by appeal decisions, by the law and so forth, to consider it in that way. So I struggle to see, as I said, when we would ever be in a position to refuse an HMO application in these northern wards. We can't refuse this one, and therefore I propose granting consent.
Yes, Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Chair. It's my opinion that people spend a fleeting amount of time in a bathroom and grown adults would be compromising.
Councillor Donna Jones.
Happy to second Councillor Stubbs' proposal for the exact same reasons, and I agree that I think it seems pointless, these all coming here.
A comment from the Chair on that. I think it is reasonable that this one should come here because it does not meet our space standards. Had it met our space standards, I would, for the bathrooms, I think there would be no reason for it to come here. I would agree with you. But in this case, I think that it was quite reasonable to bring this to the committee. Councillor Udi.
We had a discussion over this on Monday at our planning briefing, and I'd like to bring up the point that I think we should have a discussion. I know that we have to consider it the same as a family home. I'm about to move into a house that's fairly similar layout, and my bathroom is just as small. And whilst I particularly don't have any problems with that, my children are still quite young, but when they grow up, it's a horrendously small bathroom, and hopefully I might be able to sort that out. But you could have, at times, if there's 4 people living there and they might have their partners overnight, there's 6 to 8 people, I know it's like legally 6, but 8 could be very well there. And that bathroom is a third smaller than actually the layout. And we need to have a discussion. I know it's probably like a national policy framework, but we need to have a discussion about small hygienic spaces and whether we should be allowing people living in a house that maybe, I know the bedrooms are a little bit bigger, but cramming 6 people in a house, which probably would be the case, that they need bigger space to get ready in the morning, because imagine if you had, I don't particularly want to be sexist in this kind of argument, but if you had 6 women trying to fight for a bathroom in the morning, then it's going to be pretty brutal. When my daughter becomes a teenager, I feel like I'm going to be fighting for my own bathroom, let alone anything else. So I think it's a discussion we should be having about small spaces and whether we should allow it. Like I said, it's a third smaller than what is proposed, supposed to be. But you understand, you catch the drift.
Are you then recommending refusal on those grounds, or is it just a comment? Okay. I would also make a comment, possibly a sexist comment, that quite a number of men have this strange habit of cutting their facial hair off in the mornings. No members of this committee fall into that category, but it is a very strange habit, and it does take time. Any further questions, comments? Well, we have a proposal in front of us, proposed by Councillor Stubbs, seconded by Councillor Jones for approval of the officer's recommendation. Can I see those in favour? That again is not unanimous. Are you against or are you abstaining, Councillor Smythe?
I'm abstaining, Chair.
Abstaining, right. Thank you. That is carried nem con. Thank you. We now move to item on Site 10, Aerial Business Communications, Rodney Road. Can I have Mr. Leroy to the table, please? Thank you, Mr. Leroy. Can I have the officers' members, please? Can I have the officers' report on Rodney Alverstone Road, Site 10.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah.
Gap. I think we have plans for this which are being brought round to members.
I don't know where they are, and I left them with... Thank you, Chairman and members. This is an application for a change of use from a Class A1 retail unit, some form of telecommunications business, to a Class C3 coffee bar. Class C3 is, A3 is a cafe or restaurant. In this instance, the applicant is defining it as a cafe. Here's the location plan. This is at the junction of Rodney Road and Alveston Road, just off the Milton Road there, I think, opposite the cemetery on the road heading north, with the industrial area to the west. This is at the eastern tip of that industrial area. Just by way of background, you may have noticed in the report the other half of the unit, which is just to the north of the shaded area, was subject to an application late last year for a takeaway use. They specified pizzas. That application was withdrawn by the applicant. That application attracted a number of objections, including from Councillor Vernon Jackson. And you will have noticed in the SMAT report, Councillor Vernon Jackson has written in again, repeating his concerns, which overlapped between the takeaway next door, now withdrawn, and the now proposed cafe on the southern half of the same business that exists. Councillor Vernon Jackson's concerns that are in the SMAT report, I'll read them out for you briefly here. Concern about amenity for nearby residents, noise, smell, evening traffic movements. Concern about a precedent, traffic problems in general at this location. Concerns about obesity. In conjunction with the various objections received from the local residents. 23 are set out in summary in the report. The case officer does note that most of those were referring to the pizza application, so there seems to be a bit of overlap or confusion between the two. Nevertheless, they're set out completely for you there. Councillor Vernon Jackson has in the last hour sent in another email, as I was able to furnish him with some further details on the application. Just need to find it now. Here it is. He's noted that his concern was mainly over the other half of the old aerial shop, which was the pizza takeaway application now withdrawn. He's pleased it's been withdrawn. His concern remains if a cafe was granted on the other half of the property in front of you today, members, this could be converted at a later date to a takeaway with all the problems of traffic and noise. He does understand that there is the condition restricting it to daytime use only, which members can see in the report, which would address the evening concerns about noise. And he understands it may be possible to add a condition that you would not be able to change the outlet into a hot food takeaway. That's not quite the case. The application is for a cafe. If they wanted to use it as a takeaway, they would have to apply again for planning permission. And indeed, the condition we have in terms of daytime use also would be difficult, I think, for a traditional takeaway, when they would presumably want to operate mostly in the evenings. The council is conscious that Somerson Lodge is opposite, and residents are being concerned about smells from the pizza takeaway. Again, that was the other application, and he would like these concerns to be addressed. So on that last point about smells and so on, I take you back to the SMAT report, and indeed the main report, where Environmental Health requested a second condition that didn't unfortunately make its way into the report at the end, which makes it clear that should anything else apart from normal preparation in a cafe for hot beverages, toasting of bread, heating of food in a microwave, and other domestic cooking devices, should anything else beyond that be required in the cafe, then the condition requires full details of a kitchen extraction ventilation system precisely to control noise and odours. I think that's pretty unlikely. Looking at the internal layout of the premises, you can see across the middle it says Unit 1 Retail, and the coffee bar is on the right there, and associated with that is a staff room. There's no kitchen for the preparation of a proper hot food offer, so this clearly is a cafe with hot beverages and a few, I imagine, the odd sandwich and cakes and that sort of thing. That's quite clear to me. In terms of the application, you can see the internal layout proposed with a number of covers across the unit. On the left-hand side, as you look at the plan here, which is the Alveston Road frontage, that would change. At the moment, that has informal parking across the front of it. That would be restricted to 3 parking spaces, which are close to the current drop curb. Clearly, the outlet would like some outdoor seating space. How popular that would be at this junction, I don't know, but you can see 2 terraces on the front facing east and south there, and then a bike store and a refuse store as well in the top left-hand corner there on the Alveston Road frontage. The applicant didn't specify opening hours. Environmental Health requested that it be daytime only, so that's the condition we've attached, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m, which addresses many, I hope, of the issues of concern from the councillor and residents about evening amenity. Otherwise, probably the other issue, I should go back, to principle. It is in an industrial area where the policy sets out that industrial uses should be maintained, but because it's already out of industrial use, it's Class A1 retail, that policy can't apply. There's no loss of industrial employment use A, so we wouldn't seek to object to the application in principle. And secondly, the policy also sets out that service uses can be appropriate to serve a wider industrial estate, and so you may expect that if this is approved, people working on the industrial estate may want to pop in at lunch or on the way to work and so on to pick up a coffee or a sandwich or drop in and have a break. So it complies with that element of our policy. And lastly, in terms of parking and highways, in essence, there is no objection from highways. They've made a few observations on the application. Those are the premises. I'm sorry, I haven't got the pointer. There's the premises in the centre of the picture. The access on Alveston Road there, as it curves round to the north, is in and out, and there's an exit only on the north side where you can see the little blue bubble. I'll show you in the more detailed photographs. That's the southern elevation. So the cars on the left there will be changed into the little terrace, and then 3 spaces on the right maintained. That's looking from the junction, so there on the left is the in and out for the whole premises. And then turning around onto Rodney Road, you can see the blue sign, hopefully just above the railings there on the right, which says exit only, I think. That is an exit only. So the existing traffic and parking arrangements on and off the site would remain as they are. The Transportation Department consider there would be little material difference in the flow of traffic and visitors in terms of parking compared to the Class A1 retail use for a cafe, and they note that there is some 2-hour visitor parking available on street in the wider area should someone come by car and there not be a space on the site. So they raise no objection. So with the extra condition on the concerning the cooking facilities, that is the recommendation to approve for you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Leroy, you have 6 minutes to address the committee, and yes, you've pressed the button, then we'll hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're grateful for your time. I represent the 23 people in written objections, though there were many more. I know that have emailed objections, and also we did have a collection of objections which came to, I do believe, over 200 against this proposal. The prime reason we object, and I represent people that live in Somerset Lodge, which we would like to state at this time is living independently. It is not an old people's home. It is independent living, and we are all owners of our property. The main reasons given really by us are general increase of traffic, which will bring about traffic noise. This includes things like opening and closing of doors and running of engines. In general, there is one other item which in a way seems to have been overlooked, I feel, by the committee. The entrance to this is in Alveston Road, and that really does not present a problem. But the exit into Rodney Road we find rather surprising. The exit, if it is the only way, has then to cross or enter a road which is at a junction which is known in this city as the worst traffic junction of any traffic junction in this city. Should a person wish to travel north, they can't exit Alveston Road, therefore they must go across two 30-mile-an-hour lanes to be able to enter the lane that will enable them to go north. Should they wish to go south, should they enter that first lane, they have no right to turn south, therefore they can't go south directly from this point. Should they wish to go north, they must cover two lanes or go to the extreme of going up, completely up Rodney Road towards the west, take the roundabout at the top and come all the way down again, which we feel causes unnecessary volume of traffic. At this stage, although it has been said that the permission was to be asked on specific times, there were no specific times granted, but I do believe that it has been said that it will be a daylight time operation. On top of this, we would like to say that it has been stated in other investigations that it is thought that this would probably be served by footfall. Well, we don't agree with this, as footfall in this area is quite small, but traffic is very heavy. And also the other objection, of course, is on health. We do not know if there is any way that fumes from the kitchen for what is used, whether it is an abstraction. And if you'll excuse me a moment, government would like to take issue with the fact that there are too many places where children can be enticed to go and buy food or drink. Now, there is quite a large school comparatively near, and we would like to object on those grounds, but also the boundary from which the premise wishes to be changed and the boundary from which I represent are 33 paces. Now, we consider that a very small amount to be the fact that, okay, this is a industrial site that it is on, but it also faces a residential area. And my objection, along with my fellow people that live, is that really we don't feel this should be taken as a reason not to object against it. We would like to say from Summerson Lodge that we really object to this on the grounds that I've discussed. I'm grateful for your time, and I'm willing to listen to any other objections to me or my fellow people. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leroy. Members, questions? Councillor Smith, then Councillor Stubbs.
Thanks, Chair. Just a point of clarification. The planning officer said that the highways hadn't objected, but on page 20, it does actually say at the bottom paragraph that they wish to raise a highways objection on the grounds that no information regarding the parking and service arrangements for the proposal have been provided. So can I have clarification about how that actually stands at the moment?
Thank you. Yes, I do apologise. I've said that because on page 23, just 2 paragraphs up from the conclusion, I read it out. The applicant has provided amendments to the scheme that include a satisfactory parking arrangement. They've included 3 parking bays along the western side of the site adjacent to the Coffee Terrace. The highways engineer is satisfied with this solution and raises no objection to the proposal. So you could, it perhaps isn't 100% clear if that's satisfied with the amended parking but not other matters, or satisfied with the whole scheme.
Supplementary on that?
Yes, please. So have you gone back to Highways to seek clarification about when they've said they're accepting the proposal, which part they're accepting? Is it just the parking they're accepting, or are they accepting the other bit?
Yes, Councillor, that's what I'm saying is not entirely clear when you read this again. I think that they noted in their comments, as you've picked up quite legitimately, that there had been no parking service arrangements, but my reading of it was that's not entirely uncommon, unfortunately, with many smaller applications. A developer doesn't always carry out what one might like or expect. And the highways officer, indeed the planning department, can take a pragmatic view. Is it necessary to insist upon a certain study? And my reading of this was that they didn't think that was necessary. They were happy that the trip generation was likely to be lower than the existing A1 use. And so what would be the point of asking for trip generations, etc., to try and understand the development? So I didn't read it that they were looking for further details, Chair, to answer your question. That's an assumption. I think, if I can give my own view, for the arrangements for servicing and deliveries and so on, it's a relatively small unit, and I would imagine it'd be served by a van of appropriate size to get onto the site if they want to service it from the site or from the highway. And I wouldn't have thought the volume of goods would be so huge, and so I would have thought that servicing arrangements ought to be achieved within that site, like they are for the Class A1 retail use.
Councillor Stubbs.
Yeah, several points. So just on the traffic issue, on the face of it, you would not want to create a new route for vehicles to try to attempt to do a right turn straight into the Velder Avenue crossroads. And I was kind of hoping to hear that there will be something in the layout for vehicles emerging into Rodney Road to force them to go right and go left, go westbound, go left, up to the roundabout and use that to change direction, because you can't have cars trying to cut across a busy crossroads, and I think any layout ought to reflect that, really. I guess that's half a comment as much as a question. The question I was going to ask is about the existing lawful use. So it's got an existing use as A1 retail. Are there any hours of operation restrictions on that, or could this unit be changed into some sort of quickie mart store with round-the-clock operation without the need for planning consent?
Thank you, Councillor. I don't have the original consent in front of me to answer on the evening whether or not there was hours granted on the A1 use. I'm sorry, I don't have that. I'm sorry, I don't have that. In terms of the traffic lane arrangements, which is what Mr. Leroy raised as well, there may be some concerns from local residents or councillors about the arrangements at this busy junction. Again, from what the highways officer has said, they believe that trip generation would actually probably be less than a Class A1 retail unit, and it is an existing site that operates for an existing business. This would be another business replacing that that would fit in with existing arrangements. So whether or not they're perfect, it's replacing one business with another, where the trip generation is not anticipated to be significantly different. So it ought to be a neutral effect in broad terms, I would suggest.
Maybe, but you could equally see that while the number of spaces is reduced, that the number of individual journeys could be higher, and obviously I don't think it's so significant that it's one of these things which is going to lead to jams in the junction, but I do think there's a potential highway safety issue if people were in a position to do a turn straight into the middle of a junction with traffic flowing all the way around it. And it doesn't, it sounds like something that can be dealt with by good design, whether that's through bollards or sort of build outs or something, but it is a concern I have.
Councillor Smythe, then Councillor Jones.
I'm likewise concerned about the lack of comment about the access and egress to this site, because whilst it may be similar footprint to the previous business, which sold contracts for mobile phones, I am pretty certain, because I did at one stage use that company for my mobile phones, I don't think that gives me an interest here, that you could only turn left at the north of that part of the site. You can't turn right, and quite rightly it would be very dangerous and would hold up the traffic. On the way in fact, you can't get to the site from St Mary's Road, the road that goes, what's the name of the road that goes off past the hospital? Milton Road. You can't get to the site from Milton Road without doing some other manoeuvres, because you can't turn right into that point, I don't think. But what I would like to see is...
You can turn right into that road.
Yeah, what I would like, therefore, because there seems to be some confusion about that, is some knowledge about the traffic flows and whether highways were happy with it. I'm certain that you can't go right out of it.
Was that an answer to the question, Councillor Stagg, as it's traffic and transportation?
Well, yes, I've got various observations. I was the one who actually changed the traffic changes. So do you want me to do that later or now?
I think it's relevant now, and then I'm going to come to Councillor Jones. Okay. So if there a response to Councillor Smythe.
Originally at that junction there were 5 changes of lights, and we had massive hold-ups of traffic. So we tested, and by cutting out the turning into Alverstone Road, coming out of Alverstone Road, we cut down one of the changes of lights from 5 to 4. That wasn't enough, so we then changed it. So coming along Welder Avenue, you couldn't turn right to go up Milton Road. And that saved us 640 cars per hour at the junction. So that is the reason why you can't come out of Alverstone Road, but you can go in, you can come down Milton Road and turn right into Rodney Road and then sharp left into Alverstone.
Yes, you can.
Or you can come up Milton Road and turn left, but you can't come out of Alverstone Road and go on to Milton Road. So if they're going to have this there, they're actually going to have to go out and go down through Alverstone Road and come out onto Priory Crescent. Yes, I think. Yes. So I don't know if that helps.
Is Alverstone Road open? I think it was blocked off.
Yes. Okay, Councillor Jones.
I was just going to make a point that picture is demonstrated perfectly. I know this site very well. You absolutely cannot turn right when you come out of this car park. You have to go left. You are absolutely forced to go left because there is a build-out already there.
Yes.
Thank you. Correct. Any further questions, members? No, you cannot take unless a question is asked of you, sir.
Is it...
Councillor Smythe.
Is it possible to get some clarification? We've got some agreement that you can't turn right, but what about the? So you can't do that. What about coming in? What happens at the junction about that? Unless it's something that.
Shall I answer it?
Yes, please.
Right.
Because we need.
You can go into it if you're coming down Milton Road. You can turn right into Rodney Road and then sharp left into Alverstone.
Yes.
If you're coming along Welder Avenue, you can go straight across onto Rodney Road and again sharp turn into Alverstone. If you're coming up from the south, you can turn left at the junction, but you cannot come out of Alverstone Road and turn right or even left. You've got to carry on around the system.
Right, thank you.
Sorry, just to add to that, I mean, I think the layout plan shows to you that there aren't any changes to the highway arrangement. This is existing use with an existing traffic generator, and there's probably fairly regular traffic movements with an A1 use. So what you're being asked to consider is this scheme, A1 use, how the traffic operates at the moment, as Councillor Stagg has very helpfully described to us, and how that change of use and how the traffic movements, sort of traffic frequency might change or not change as a result of that change of use, given that there are no actual physical changes to the highway network or the point of access.
Any further questions, members? Comments? Councillor Stagg?
Right, following on from all of that, I do hope they never attempt to change that because that was a highly polluted junction. It still is highly polluted junction, although it's less so than it was because of the change in the lights. But what concerns me, and this is about the coffee terrace, you're going to have people sitting outside at a junction which is excruciatingly polluted. I mean, there should be a health warning before you go in, you know, saying you sit here at your own risk. Secondly, I use that junction regularly, and there were very few vehicles going into in and out of the old. Was it Vodafone? It was Vodafone, wasn't it? You know, it's just one of those things. People are not going in and out. However, with a coffee place, you have far more people going in and out, and it is a bad junction as it is.
And I think, again, for you as a planning committee, whilst the traffic generation by the Vodafone, the phone company use might have been low, as Councillor Stubbs has referenced, what you have is a planning permission for an A1 use. So if you put your mindset to this could be a quickie mark, generating the traffic that you might associate with that specific A1 use, and then compare that against what you've got to consider this afternoon, then you can make your assessment in planning terms of what the impact of that change of use is.
Comments, members? Councillor Stubbs.
I do understand the residents' concerns, but from a planning perspective, we're looking here at a site which there's nothing to stop this being a convenience store now without any form of planning permission, and I think we need to be mindful of that, and we need to ask, would this coffee retail use have a greater impact on the locality and on trip generation? I don't believe it would. Therefore, I propose permission.
That includes the second condition which you have on the supplementary papers?
It does, yes.
Thank you. Now, that must be made clear. Is there a seconder for that?
I will second that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hooper. Are there any other comments from members? Councillor Udi.
On the whole, before I kind of saw all of this, excluding the takeaway, which has now been taken away, I was quite pleased that something was being done in this area, and I was quite happy that it was going to be a coffee shop, even though the outside sitting area and people sitting there, like, honestly, that's the worst, but well, that's completely different. But now seeing it and not having the applicant be here so we could ask more questions over it is slightly disappointing, because I feel like they've just chucked in a planning application to try and do something, and I just don't think it's a great idea anymore. But on the balance of the probabilities of it being chucked back, and I thought that maybe we could defer it over highways issues, but I don't know if we can to really knuckle down and have a look. Like I said, on the front of it, I'm really fine with it, and I feel like because there's quite a lot of in the area, there's microbrewery around the corner, there's quite a few things happening in that little industrial site in Milton, and in the long run it could be great. And I'm probably just rambling now, but I just feel quite disappointed, and I don't know where I'm lying, and I just feel uncomfortable with this one. I listened to the residents' concerns. I did also receive letters, and I feel like we would have more people parking there. I don't know who would really use it, because it's such a really random place. I worked in a pub right near there that has shut down and has been not even touched in years, and needs to be something done on that site. Not really many people kind of use that walking along unless it's a match day, and you can't sustain a business just purely on match day trading. And I feel like if this was converted to, at the same time, I feel like if it was converted to a cafe, I don't feel like it might even succeed as a business in the long run, and then something else could happen to this site. But sorry, I'm just going off on one, just kind of like...
I share your concerns about the viability of this, but on the other hand, the viability of is not a planning consideration. Councillor Stagg.
Is it possible to defer to try and sort out that traffic problem, the egress and so forth?
Well, I think it's for the members to consider whether, based on the debate we've had, whether there is a traffic issue given the existing use and what is proposed as part of this application in terms of any physical change to the junction and the highway arrangements. So it's for the committee to decide whether they're satisfied, given the debate we've had, that they're in a position to make a decision, or that they feel that the alterations or changes that are proposed in the traffic generation is such that they're not comfortable to make a decision this afternoon.
Councillor Stagg.
The safety issue does concern me, and the reason I say this is not just for this particular site, but several of the businesses along Rodney Road, since we stopped traffic turning right into at the junction to go north, they've gone into Rodney Road and tried to do U-turns in the middle of Rodney Road, and that still goes on today. So if you've got the same sort of thing happening with this, it is a major concern of mine. So I would like to see if we could get that sorted out. I don't know how, but I'd be happier if they did that.
Do that by condition.
I think the difficulty that we've got as in terms of looking at that is if those U-turns are happening by existing businesses, that's sort of an illegal thing that's happening on the highway. So in terms of what can we do in the context of this application, well, we can't change what they're doing on the highway at the moment, and once vehicles leave this premises and enter the highway, then there's no planning condition that we could put on it to control that situation, because the way the road works and the road alignments and markings and so forth are the things that dictate the way people use the highway. So I think those illegal U-turns are outside the remit of this application to consider. So perhaps a way forward on that specific point is something that we actually take away and discuss with the highway team to see how we look at that sort of more holistically and what we might be able to put in place or communicate with those operators to actually try and alleviate that problem.
Right, members. You have before you then a recommendation and an additional element, the second condition placed by environmental health, which must be added to this, which limits the type of operation. With that addition, we have it proposed by Councillor Stubb, seconded by Councillor Hooper. Will those in favour of the officer's recommendation please show? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against please show. That is carried by a majority. Thank you very much. The planning application is approved. Thank you very much, members. We now move, and thank you very much for your deputation, Mr. Leroy.
Thank you, sir. Although obviously we're not pleased with that.
Okay.
If that is it, that's it.
That
Thank you
is
anyway,
it.
sir.
Thank you. Sorry? The additional condition is there. Right, members. We now move to item number 5, 137 Gladys Avenue. Sorry? I'm not going to keep you too long. Don't worry. Don't stop panicking. 137 Gladys Avenue. We looked at this in the briefing meeting on Monday, and we considered that there was absolutely no way in which, were we to turn this down, we would not be immediately overturned by an application to the planning inspectorate. It is an area where there is less than 10%. The move is from a Class 4 house in multiple occupation to an 8-bedroomed house. From 7 to 8, it is just the addition of 1, and we have a number of cases where this has been in fact, in every case where we have objected, we have been overturned by the planning inspectorate. Do you wish to consider this afternoon, or will you accept that this should proceed? Does anybody wish to consider this in detail this afternoon? No, thank you. We now move to the additional items, which, first of all, we want to look at the supplementary planning document. So, okay. There are reasons why this should be done in exempt session. So can we, in that case, do you have any enforcement matters to bring to our attention?
Chair, I don't have any enforcement update today for this meeting.
Right. In which case, before I close the meeting and we move into normal meeting, we move into exempt session to consider supplementary planning documents, I would like to thank Mrs. Claire Upton-Brown for her services to the City Council. She is moving on, and I think we all wish her well in the New Forest. We look forward to seeing some very interesting planning developments in the New Forest, and we certainly thank you very much for your courtesy and your friendship to us over what is now 13 years. Councillor Donna Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. I wonder if I could just echo that as someone who started on the planning committee in 2008, and I think you joined the council in 2006, is that right? So almost been as long as you, Claire, but not quite. But thank you very much, and I didn't realise it was your last meeting today, but it's been a pleasure to work very closely with you for the last 4 years, and you were an immeasurable help, so thank you very much.
In order to consider a matter of supplementary planning document, we now need to go into an exempt session, and we must request members of the public to leave.